This is the J Pitt Show.
All right, I'll give you a choice here. We can talk about the acquisitions, or we can talk about NAR's new MLS policy.
I kind of want to talk about both, but I want to be brief. And I know you're probably going to roll your eyes at that. That's okay. The major company acquisitions that have happened, I think, are symptomatic of something. One thing that I think we should understand is that the large companies who took part in individual settlements, okay, not the NAR settlement, because that came from the National Association of Realtors and their coffers, but the Remaxes, the Anywhere Real Estates, the Redfins, the big companies, right? When they settled their individual suits, the sum total of payments equated to 40%, okay, of all cash on hand of all of those companies combined.
Wow.
So those companies are now at 60% of the assets they had pre-settlement. The acquisitions are prompted by that. These companies are weak in the knees. Okay. Some are private, some are public. You see Redfin selling to Rocket, which is, a behemoth of a online mortgage lending company. It makes total sense. It's horizontal integration there at its finest. Basically, Rocket is looking to own a real estate company that can generate great leads. That is, frankly, probably the single greatest fit with their model of the kind of internet from a distance type. Their agents are salaried, so are Rocket's LOs. Less commission, more salary, more operated like a tech company than a real estate firm. Keller Williams sold a large share to a private equity firm. They remained private, largest private real estate operation in the nation. Again, ailing from settlement. The rumored acquisition by Compass of Berkshire Hathaway or Home Services of America, again, rumored. It has not become confirmed yet. Supposedly that is being worked on. I don't know. The CEO of Home Services of America has denounced it. What are you going to do? When this kind of information gets leaked, I don't know. I can't say. But these companies are ailing, and it's going to take some time to heal, and that is what it is. But I'm on record numerous times about the mistakes I feel like the industry has made over the last several decades that led to this moment, and is a perfect segue to the new Clear Cooperation policy, which I think is a large mistake by the National Association of Realtors. I think they are flying blind on this. I think their fear. Clear Cooperation is NAR's answer for nefarious agents doing a disservice to their client by pocket selling listings without taking them to market. Mm-hmm. It also just happens to devalue, NAR's greatest asset, which is the MLS. Okay, so they don't want to talk about that. Okay, the MLS is king to them. If the MLS is not valuable, not the most valuable thing in the industry, they don't feel like they can survive. Okay, so I think there's a bit of self-preservation here. So here's what they did is they required, once upon a time, a few years back, I want to say it's like 2019 is when this started, they required real estate agents to list a property, member realtors, members of the National Association of Realtors. If you list a property, you must have it on the MLS within 24 hours of public marketing. Okay? You have to have it on the MLS within 24 hours of signing the listing if you don't have an exclusive or
office
exclusive form, which essentially is the seller instructing you to keep it off of the public market. Okay. Once you go from off of the public market onto the public market via any means of advertising, like a sign in the yard, a Facebook ad, anything identifiable to the public, MLS included. You do any of that, it must be on the MLS within 24 hours of that. Again, what they're trying to do is make it fair for realtors. Okay. I think that is a driving force. And they're trying to keep an agent who would sell it to a client of theirs off market for less than market value. They're trying to keep that from happening, which is a noble pursuit. Okay. The problem is what we've seen through the Sitzer Burnett trial is that limiting clients' ability to do business as they see fit with all the information at their disposal through policies and procedures within our trade organization puts us in a really, really sticky spot. So essentially, you're telling a seller now that they must put their property on the MLS. And with it, until now, typically came syndication to like about 1,000 different websites. What if a seller doesn't want their property on 1,000 different websites? What if they want to hire Jay Pitts to sell their house to somebody that only Jay walks through the door because they trust Jay and they don't trust anyone else? What if they have really expensive personal belongings that they don't want photographs taken of? Okay, so now what you're saying, by requiring them to go on the MLS, they don't get to make those choices with their agent, their choice of broker and agent, about how their property is to be marketed. I can understand why the downside, Ryan, would be a little smaller in those situations, but the risk, the accumulated risk of essentially restricting every single seller's ability to make those choices, I think is a greater risk for our industry. So once again, we have our largest companies paying out 40% of all assets in settlements in the last 12 months. And clear cooperation has been challenged multiple times in court. And NAR's answer is now to allow a seller to, depending on the local standards determined by the local board, to withhold their MLS listing. No change in whether you have to put it on the MLS or not. You still can't publicly market the property in any way, okay, without it being on the MLS within 24 hours. But now you can withhold it from syndication.
And what Jay means by that's going to Zillow.
Yeah, going to Zillow, going to Realtor.com, going to 1,000 different agent websites and 500 different company websites. Like, we're losing the forest for the trees here. And again, that amount of time that you can hold it off, even syndication,
we don't know how long it's going to be.
Will be determined by a local board of realtors.
Yeah.
They just need to stop monkeying around with the consumer.
Let's make guesses. How long do you think we're going to,
I'd say 2 weeks. I'd say 2 weeks will end up being the cap. And that doesn't make any daggone sense.
I'll say 10 days.
10 days sounds like a good...
It's going to be like some kind of...
arbitrary...
like round number.
Ugh.
Well, they're all round numbers, but it's
just,
going to be
man,
it's going to be 10 days.
It's bothersome to me. Get out of people's back pockets.
It'd be 7, 10, 14, 21, or 30.
I think they should stop telling sellers how they have to act when they market their property for sale.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think they should prosecute in any way possible the agents that rip off sellers. Let that agent solely and severally and their broker be responsible for the terrible job that they did for their client. You know what I mean? The way that we're letting people who refuse to have a buyer agency agreement signed prior to working with them suffer. They need to suffer. If you don't represent your client to the best of your ability, if you rip people off, you should be punished individually. Stop making me do things that puts me at risk because you think you can solve a problem that happens very seldom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, very few sellers even want to hold their property off the market. So what are we talking about? Less than 1% of all transactions? Okay. And what percentage of those get ripped off? You're talking about 1 out of every 1,000 from 1 out of every 100?
Yeah.
Like it's really ridiculous that we keep doing this. We keep paying these people, okay, that don't represent our best interests. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.